Hey guys, Aaron CybertronVGC here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online Series 2 VGC ladder in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and provide live commentary as I go. In this video, I'm going to be trying out a team that won a major online VGC Series 2 tournament with almost 500 players in it right after the rule set was initially announced. This team is just one of the most consistent teams that I've tried in the format so far. It centers around setting up dual screens with Grimmsnarl and just using some powerful setup attackers like, for example, Throat Spray Sylveon, Bulk Up Corviknight, as well as Swords Dance Iron Hands to kind of just outbulk your opponent and slowly distribute damage across the board. And so, as always, I do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps down below. And thanks so much as always for watching. If you enjoyed, really appreciate it if you consider leaving a like on the video or subscribing to the channel. Really helps me out a ton. Anyway, let's dive into things. First of all, for some quick context, this team won a major online tournament. It was one of the first online Series 2 tournaments that I saw, and essentially it happened right after the Series 2 rule set was announced towards the end of January. This one had 468 players in it, and the team that we're featuring was built and piloted by a player called Ally. So you can check the link down in the description below to see all of the teams from that tournament. Of course, Ally ended up winning the entire thing with a 13-2 record, and he actually posted a really cool in-depth team report for it as well. And of course, Rental and Paste are also included. So all of that's down in the description below, and this team, like I mentioned, really just embodies consistency and is just really strong but also very defensive, which I personally really value in this format. So yeah, let's break down the team. Since there's an in-depth team report written for this team, I figured it'd be better to actually just go along the report with you all rather than just show the sets like I normally do online. And so yeah, huge thank you to Ally once again for building and sharing this team, and congratulations to him for winning a huge tournament, especially before there was even a Series 2 metagame established. I think to come up with such a consistent and solid team, even now after the Series 2 rule set has been announced, is a testament to how strong of a team it is, and of course how strong of a player Ally was to pilot it all the way to a first place finish. And so yeah, let's just talk about things. Grimmsnarl is the first Pokemon, and this isn't anything new, especially if you followed VGC throughout Sword and Shield. That was one of the most dominant Pokemons in Sword and Shield, but what's interesting is that its usage actually feels like it's fallen off a little bit. Light Clay plus dual screens is so good on this team because you have so much bulk to work with. You have also like Intimidate from Arcanine and Snarl from Arcanine, and you have a lot of recovery between Citrus Berry on Iron Hands as well as Recover from Gastrodon, and so Pokemon are just really difficult to knock out. Now, you know, the dual screens and Spirit Break is fairly standard, but Misty Terrain I think is one of the coolest techs on this Grimmsnarl, and it basically exists for a couple of different reasons. First of all, it obviously helps you against opposing status conditions, whether it be Spore from Amoonguss or Brute Bonnet or Will-O-Wisp from Arcanine. Second of all, it allows you to reduce the damage output of Dragon-type attacks, which can be fairly valuable. And third of all, it allows you to change Psychic Terrain into Misty Terrain. Armarouge Indeedee is still really common in this format, and so being able to, you know, reduce the damage output of their Psychic-type attacks and also make Expanding Force single target, I think is very, very nice. And you have enough special defense here where with the Light Screen being up, you can survive Choice Specs, Make It Rain from Golden Go, and Choice Specs Flutter Mane from Timid Moonblast. And so, yeah, I think really nice benchmarks to hit. And basically, the general idea is, like, I feel like I bring Grimmsnarl in almost every battle that I use this team in because the screens are just so valuable, and people aren't really good at just knocking out Grimmsnarl immediately. Arcanine's the next Pokemon, and Arcanine's really interesting here because it's actually an Assault Vest set with more offense. You know, you've got Extreme Speed and Psychic Fangs rather than like Will-O-Wisp and Protect, for example. And so with Assault Vest, you can obviously take attacks a little bit better, and you also just deal large amounts of damage. I think people underestimate how much damage Arcanine can do. Like, Flare Blitz into Extreme Speed can very quickly KO things, even if you're not like max attack, for example. And so, like the report mentions, there's a lot of flexibility here. Psychic Fangs is interesting to break opposing screens, because yeah, otherwise opposing screens can be somewhat annoying to deal with, and you have enough speed to outspeed Modest Golden Goal and also potentially just one-shot them. You can see from this benchmark, actually, even if Golden Goal is like 156 HP and 4 defense, Flare Blitz is still a guaranteed KO, and so against a lot of non-bulky Golden Goals or mid-tier kind of bulky Golden Goals, you can just one-shot them, which is really nice. And there are a lot of defense calcs you can take a look at here as well, but the general idea is to outspeed Modest Golden Go and ideally pick up a big one-hit knockout onto it. So yeah. Like, the main thing with Arcanine is that it can just deal large amounts of damage. I feel like people just underestimate how strong this Pokemon is. Also, Intimidate plus Snarl is obviously really good for a team like this when you have so many defensive options and Pokemon that want to set up. Speaking of setup Pokemon, Iron Hands is the next one to talk about. Now, there are a lot of different ways that people are using this at the moment. For example, I've seen Swords Dance for Belly Drum, I've seen Assault Vest, I've seen Booster Energy. I really like the Citrus Berry and Swords Dance Drain Punch set. especially with how much sustain that you have on this team and how much defense you have, you'll often be able to just get a Swords Dance or multiple Swords Dances off and just be able to deal large amounts of damage. You can see here, the report mentions many players in the early format opt for an Assault Vest with like Will-O-Wisp, or sorry, Volt Switch and Fake Out, not Will-O-Wisp, for utility. But this Iron Hands essentially can just stack up damage output very, very quickly, especially after getting just 1 or 2 Swords Dances off. And one thing that's really cool that they mentioned here is Misty Terrain, giving it more support, because normally to deal with Iron Hands, people will like try to burn it with Will-O-Wisp or Spore it, which I think is really cool. Grass Terra helps though to ignore Rage Powder and of course ignore Amoonguss' Spore. And you can see there are a lot of different calcs kind of optimized for here down in the description below. The next Pokemon is Gastrodon with Covert Cloak. This Pokemon basically exists to make some Pokemon miserable in the format. With Covert Cloak, you can actually ignore the residual damage from Salt Cure from Garganacl, and Garganacl is a Pokemon that I feel like its stock has been rising, especially towards the end of Series 1, and, you know, wins this big regional championship. A lot of people have been using it in Series 2 as well, and so with Covert Cloak, you just don't take residual damage at the end of the turn from Salt Cure, which is so nice, because essentially the Gastrodon can just wall Garganacl. Now, that doesn't mean that Gastrodon itself just completely beats Garganacl, because if they have a good Terra, like Ghost or Grass, for example, you actually can't deal much damage to them, but the idea is that they also can't really do much to you, right? And so you essentially, you can like pair Gastrodon with another strong Pokemon and keep knocking out everything next to Garganacl, and then have this endgame where Garganacl is facing like multiple Pokemon and just can't deal enough damage to all of them with Salt Cure. This is also really nice because it completely walls the Iron Bundle with Storm Drain, and of course can redirect those attacks away as well. And with the Fire Terra, you are no longer weak to Freeze Dry as well. So this Pokemon is just a huge pain for multiple common Pokemon in the format to deal with, which I think is really cool. And you can see there's some offensive calcs here where it's a 2-hit knockout onto a lot of Assault Vest Arcanines with Earth Power, and you can see there are a fair amount of good defensive damage calcs down here as well. The spread is mainly meant to optimize, two-shotting the Assault Vest Arcanine, and then just optimizing the bulk as well. To round out the team, you've got Sylveon. This is a Throat Spray set with Hyper Voice and Fire Terra. Nothing too wild here. The main thing to call it is it has Yawn rather than Quick Attack. I think Yawn is really nice on a team like this that aims to kind of, you know, slowly shut down your opponent rather than picking up quick knockouts immediately. And I think Quick Attack isn't really that valuable on it anyway. So I really like this. The EV spread basically here is meant to speed creep other Sylveons and also be faster than max speed Amoonguss. And then just having a defensive benchmark of Living Flower Trick from Admin Choice Band Meowscarada. And so overall, I think it's just a fairly consistent set. And yeah, with Fire Terra, of course, you can have a nice matchup into Fire type Pokemon or Pokemon that normally hit Sylveon for super effective attacks like Steel type Pokemon. To round things out, you've got Corviknight. I think Corviknight is honestly super underrated, and in general, like, it makes so much sense on this team. And as you see here, I think, Corviknight was a Pokemon that just wasn't on a lot of people's radars going into the start of Series 2, and even now, right? I mean, we just started the format, but I feel like not many people are using it. It's really cool because of Mirror Armor, because it can bounce back things like Intimidate or Speed Drops from Icy Wind, and both of those are fairly common in the format. And this is an offensive set with Bulk Up, Ironhead, Bravebird, and Roost rather than like Body Press, for example. And so this benchmark allows you to outspeed max speed Amoonguss and enough to just one-shot them with +1 Bravebird, unless they're like super max HP, max defense. And so you can see all of the different calcs here. But yeah, overall, I really think this is just one of the best and most consistent teams that I've tried out in Series 2 so far, and I highly encourage you to check out the team report to get some better insight into how to utilize it and also learn about the damage calcs a little bit better as well. So yeah, that's it for the team. Let's quickly highlight some weaknesses. So in terms of just some things that I've run into that have given me trouble, the first thing I'd highlight is that if I don't get screens up with Grimmsnarl, obviously the Pokemon just don't do as much damage, and so something like just threatening Grimmsnarl for a knockout immediately can be scary, especially super effective Fairy and Steel type attacks. Now, you do have Ghost Terror on this. You can actually get around Fake Out plus like a super effective attack onto Grimmsnarl, but one of the debates I've had when, you know, in that position is, do I actually commit my Ghost Terra, because, you know, it feels like maybe it'd be more valuable to Terra something in the back. But yeah, if Grimmsnarl is eliminated quickly and only gets one of the 2 screens up, for example, or no screens up, that can be problematic. If your opponent has a way to break through screens like Brick Break or Psychic Fangs, that can also be kind of annoying. One other thing I'll mention is that this team just doesn't have speed control. I don't think it really needs it, quite frankly, because you have so much bulk to work with, but you'll be in situations where occasionally your opponent will be faster than you, right? I'd say more often than not that will be the case, and so that can be really scary because, of course, if they move first, then they have the ability to potentially, you know, crit you before you get a chance to move or get a status condition onto you. Of course, you do have Misty Terrain for that, but crits are actually, I think, a really important thing to highlight about this team, because games will generally go on for a longer period of time. You have a lot of bulk, but you're not often going to pick up big one-hit knockouts. And so as a result, I would say the team might be a little bit more like vulnerable to critical hits, especially setup-oriented Pokemon like Iron Hands and Corviknight. A crit can just be really tough to deal with. And so like Hydreigon with Scope Lens, for example, is actually really tricky to go up against, because of course it can just get the focus energy and then like crit through with Draco Meteor. Although you do of course have Misty Terrain to kind of stop that a little bit. But yeah, critical hits in general can be quite scary. I think in addition, I've had just games where I feel like I just don't deal enough damage to my opponent, but I also don't have the time to set up with Bulk Up and with Swords Dance, for example. One thing on the speed control thing that I wanted to highlight is, like, for example, Annihilate can just be faster than the whole team. If you Spirit Break, you actually activate Defiant. If you Intimidate it, then you activate Defiant as well. And Mouse Hold plus Annihilate in particular is something that's still seeing some usage, and then the beat up into just Rage Fist can be kind of scary. As you'll notice, there isn't really any good defensive options against Ghost-type attacks in particular, and so Ghost-type Pokemon and Ghost-type moves in general can just be fairly strong. Annihilate's obviously really common. Fluttermane can be annoying, but I think Fluttermane is so frail that you can often just like two-shot it, and so I'm not sure that's actually too much of a problem, but taking advantage of the fact that a lot of the Pokemon just take a ton of damage from Ghost-type attacks, I think can be scary. I think also, since this team is like a little bit more setup oriented, it has a lot of recovery, but if you're up against Pokemon that can just knock you out very quickly before you're able to get any setup off, that can be problematic. Baiting out a defensive Terra is huge on this team because almost all the Terras are essentially defensive. Pretty much everything is actually defensive, I would say, with Sylveon being able to, of course, Terra Blast with Fire Terra as well. But if you get one Terra out early and then nothing else can Terra, that obviously works in your favor. Ground type attacks can be really good into Arcanine and the Iron Hands, although of course they have the Grass Terra to get around that. And just opposing like bulky teams for disruption can be kind of annoying, right? Like an opposing Arcanine can burn the Iron Hands if you don't set up Misty Terrain. It can snarl Gastrodon and the Sylveon as well. And so yeah, I also find that sometimes I really need one Pokemon to deal with like one tough Pokemon on my opponent's side, and I'm not able to conserve it properly, and then I just like kind of fall into a spiral because then none of the other Pokemon can really deal enough damage to those big threats. So that's one other thing to keep in mind. Anyway, I've been talking for long enough. Let's get into these battles. Okay, there's an Espathra here, which is really cool. Amoonguss, Tauros, Volcarona, the Tinkaton, and the Roaring Moon. Definitely intrigued by Espathra, especially with Volcarona on their team as well. I mean, their team in general is just intriguing. It's basically a Series 1 team with Roaring Moon. Tinkaton does have Fake Out, so Grimmsnarl has to be a little bit careful. I feel like Arcanine with Will-O-Wisp, or sorry, not Will-O-Wisp, Intimidate here is really solid. As always, one of my questions is, can I just like Swords Dance up with Iron Hands? Sylveon solid. I think I actually want to prioritize Corviknight here because of the Amoonguss. I don't even mind a Corviknight lead, honestly. Grimmsnarl, Corviknight, Iron Hands. Astronauts, Earth Power, Muddy Water. Arcanine gives me Intimidate. I think I actually like Arcanine here. Intimidate's really good into Roaring Moon, helps against Tinkaton, and then having Assault Vest is just good into like Espathra and Volcarona as well. Really interesting team though, so excited to see what they bring out here. The general goal is, I think, ideally to set up with Iron Hands if I can. It's going to be Volcarona, Tinkaton, okay. So it's interesting because they can obviously just go for a fire type attack immediately onto the Corviknight slot, but I can obviously just pivot into Arcanine immediately here. And reflect. The other interesting debate is just straight up staying in with Corviknight. I just don't know the Volcarona set. So I'm down to pivot into Arcanine. Go for a reflect here. Because Volcarona doesn't really threaten me with too much damage against either Pokemon. Unless I guess it was like modest max special attack overheat onto Grimmsnarl. It's not really that common though. Yeah, they click Fake Out into Arcanine. Cool. It might be a Quiver Dance here. Yeah. Quiver Dance is okay, though. I think it kind of hinges off what Terra is your Volcarona. Because I can obviously Snarl the Volcarona. like, Flare Blitz honestly just does a lot of damage here as well. So I'm honestly down to just Flare Blitz Light Screen this turn. Now that I've confirmed, though, that you are Quiver Dance, I'm not as worried about the Volcarona, honestly. Because I think the ability for it to burn me was what I was primarily concerned about earlier. They bring out Espathra. They do not protect Volcarona. So it's just going to attack here. They go for another Quiver Dance, but honestly I'm okay with that. We also have Dragon Terra with Corviknight, which I think will give Volcarona some trouble. Right, so I can just Dragon Terra and Brave Bird. That did so much damage. I think one of the things about Arcanine in this format is that it's actually a really consistent damage dealer. Honestly, I wonder if Extreme Speed just gets the KO here. I'm down to go for it. What Terra are we again? Grass, so we don't get the same type of attack bonus off that. Extreme Speed. Spirit Break. Okay, Volcarona protects, but it's fine. I mean, I guess Espathra can, like, Lumina Crash into Arcanine. But I honestly think E-Speed might just KO Volcarona anyway next turn, and even if it doesn't, Spirit Break should certainly finish it off. Yeah, so it's Lumina Crash. But not really that much damage. I'm willing to just go for the same play again. Like, they spent a lot of effort setting up Volcarona, and they haven't really gotten that much value out of it so far. Speed boost. Let's go for the same play. And if Volcarona switches, so be it, right? Like, then you don't have your boosts anymore. If Extreme Speed doesn't KO, though, the idea is that Spirit Break can finish it off, and if it does KO, then Spirit Break just goes into Espathra. So, yep, Volcarona just faints there. Beautiful. I think the second Quiver Dance was a little bit greedy from their end, and that's the beauty of just, like, the Arcanine being Assault Vest and having, like, a lot of good offense on this team. Okay, now we Spirit Break in Espathra. That does so much. We haven't even gotten Iron Hands out yet, but we haven't needed it to. Extreme Speed and Spirit Break will certainly finish off that. They have Tinkaton in the back, so I can probably contemplate switching Tinkaton, or switching Arcanine out for the Intimidate. Corviknight's really well positioned now, quite frankly. I'm down to double switch here. I think the switch into Iron Hands is probably unnecessary, but I like the idea of being able to pressure with Swords Dance a little bit more immediately. They bring out Roaring Moon, fine by me. Cool. Although a Spirit Break into that slot actually would have been really sick, so maybe they clicked Fake Out to cover for that, but it's an attack boost, that's fine. I think the main question I have is what Terra is the Roaring Moon, because I think Iron Hands at this point should fare fairly well, but of course it is weak to Acrobatics potentially from their end. I also think Corviknight can honestly just set up with Bulk Up right now, so that's what's so strong about this team. You have so many win conditions through setting up with Corviknight, setting up with the Iron Hands. Sylveon at +1 with Hyper Voice just does a lot. They just go for Gigaton Hammer. Yeah, that's fine. That's hit 28 damage. Cool. Yeah, honestly, I'm down to just Bulk Up now and then switch out into Arcanine. I think Corviknight at this point honestly kind of walls my opponent's entire team. So Tinkaton switches, makes sense. Tinkaton's just not really that scary. It's obviously quite good into Grimmsnarl, but that's basically it. And, like, this team is definitely an Iron Hands team, but it's not the only win condition, right? So right now, like, my opponent's probably feeling a little bit nervous going up against Iron Hands, but as a result, I can just use that kind of pressure to then set up with Corviknight instead. So we finally see the Terra. I've seen Ground Terra on this sometimes, so you get a stronger Earthquake. Let's see what it is. Flying Terra. Okay, works for me. With Flying Terra, you're just weak to Wild Charge from Iron Hands, so that's fine. They have Dragon Dance, though. Okay, that makes this more interesting for sure. I still don't think they can actually really hit Corviknight, though, so it's fine. That Dragon Dance also really makes me think, you know, they're Flying Terra, Dragon Dance, Acrobatics, I would assume as well. So I'm down to just Iron... Well, I guess I want to guarantee the KO here. Brave Bird and Espathra. Switch out into Grimmsnarl. They could protect Espathra, KO the Arcanine slot, but I just don't think Roaring Moon has enough offense to beat Corviknight right now. One thing with this team, though, is I think you should really try to be patient with it, because even though we're in a really winning position, like, you know, I could lose to, say, a timely critical hit. The Throat Chop, yeah, that did 40 damage. And Lumina Crash into Grimmsnarl. Beautiful. Brave Bird here should get the KO. Excellent. And now I can just switch Grimmsnarl back out into Arcanine, get another Intimidate off. And yeah, it's really hard for my opponent to break through this. So you've seen Throat Chop and Dragon Dance so far in Roaring Moon. I'd expect Acrobatics. And then maybe a Dragon type attack, maybe Protect. Anyway, Reflect is just about to run out. Happy to Roost here, even though Fake Out's probably going into that slot. Also just kind of waiting to get Iron Hands out, but yeah, by conserving Grimmsnarl, we can get Reflect up once again, and the question still is, how do you deal with Corviknight? Do you have any super effective damage into it? Because that Throat Chop is obviously not doing that much, and now I'm Intimidate cycling as well. Okay, they just go for Throat Chop. Yeah, looking for a crit, basically. And they will get knockoff, but we're Safety Goggles. I brought Corviknight actually mainly because they had Amoonguss, and so Goggles obviously helps out a lot against that, but the lack of Amoonguss makes things easier here. Reflect wears off. Last turn of Light Screen. Happy to just Iron Head, Tinkaton, and Flare Blitz at this point. We can get Grimmsnarl back out, click Reflect with that again. Yeah, they end up forfeiting. That's what this team can do, right? It looks like fairly defensive, and you have so much like defensive pivoting available to you, but at the same time, you can like start dealing damage very quickly thanks to, you know, the bulk up on Corviknight and the Swords Dance on Iron Hands. And also, this team just has really good coverage across the board, I would argue. So yeah, even though you're not necessarily picking up one-hit knockouts, it's really difficult for your opponent to knock you out in return. Ooh, they've also got Grimmsnarl Arcanine, but Murkrow annihilates Sandy Shocks on Hydreigon. I just used Sandy Shocks in Series 2, so if you want to see me try it out, check out the video in the description below. Sandy Shocks is generally really weak into Gastrodon. I feel like, I don't know, we have more recovery than our opponent here. I'd say the main thing to worry about is the Annihilate. I definitely like a Grim lead here. I think we probably don't bring Arcanine in this one because I don't have Will-O-Wisp on it. So I can remove Arcanine from the equation in terms of what to bring and what not to bring. I think it's probably these three, but Corviknight's actually pretty interesting because I can hit the Annihilate and the Grimmsnarl for super effective. But I'm pretty down for a Grimmsnarl Sylveon lead here with Gastrodon and Iron Hands in the back, I think. Yeah. And basically, the general idea with this is that I can basically get screens up early. They'll probably get their screens up as well, but I think Sylveon with Hyper Voice is just doing more damage to my opponent than they should do to me, which is valuable. I'm going to go with Grimmsnarl and Sandy Shocks. Yeah, that's fine. I think the interesting debate here on turn 1 is whether or not I actually want to click the light screen. Because I think it's actually tempting to just Hyper Voice and Spirit Break into Grimmsnarl immediately. If we eliminate Grimm, then they only get 1 screens up. That could be decently valuable. I guess I just don't want to underestimate the damage output from this. So we should probably play it safe. Click Light Screen. And just Hyper Voice. Because I think even if they get both screens up, I'll also get both screens up in this game. And I think that's totally fine in terms of trade. Yeah, so we both just trade light screens. Okay, and they go for Flash Cannon. That does less than half, wow. Ooh, the special defense drop is annoying, though. That's really rough, because now my Throat Spray, like, I probably have to switch out. I guess I could Terra Sylveon here. I don't want to Terra this, honestly, this early on. I guess... Oh, you know what I could do? I could Spirit Break and Protect here. Because then Flash Cannon doesn't KO us for sure. Thunder Wave. Ooh, okay, that's scary. Means I could potentially think about pivoting out next turn. They actually double up into that slot, which is interesting. But I think now I am super well positioned going into turn 2. It's really good damage with Spirit Break as well. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to Spirit Break and Hyper Voice here. Standard Shocks is scary, but like it's only what, base 120 plus special attack. The light screen just goes such a long way in reducing its damage output. Yeah, they just set up Reflect, but this is a double KO this turn, unless they crit me. Flash Cannon. Cool. This is why I really wanted to prioritize Sylveon in this matchup, though. I think the spread damage makes a huge difference, and if you look at their team, they did not really have too many Sylveon answers. And so it was like the odds of us hitting one of their Pokemon for super effective damage with Hyper Voice was decently high, since they had Murkrow, Annihilate, Grimmsnarl, and Hydreigon. Let's see what they have in the back. I mean, I would expect Annihilate. There's Hydreigon. Yep. Yep. I mean, they're super weak to Fairy in this. 5 turns of Light Screen. I can set up Reflect now, obviously. Hydreigon should probably Terra here, in my opinion. Question is into what? This is not over by any means. I'm happy to Spirit Break Hydreigon and Protect here, I think. But I think I have to worry about Annihilate clicking Bulk Up a bunch in this battle. I think that could actually beat me still. So there's the Terra on Hydreigon. Yep. Into Poison. That makes sense. Poison, Poison, Poison. I wonder if Gastrodon was the right Pokemon to bring. I don't know. It's not like Arcanine would have really been that valuable in this matchup currently. That is actually a huge issue for me. Oh, wow. Wait. The guaranteed crits here... Uh-oh. Huh. Wait, that was like the one set I could have really lost to. Them having focus. I should have covered for that. Corviknight over Gastrodon would have been so much better for me in this endgame, by the way, but... Why did I bring Gastrodon? Because of the Arcanine, you know? Anyway, you can set up Reflect here, but I am definitely losing Sylveon. This is where having Thunder Wave would have been kind of nice, I think, but it's fine. Yeah, basically with the ability for them to actually crit through things right now, this is a major problem. Annihilate goes for Protect, okay? Yeah, because essentially that set will allow them to crit through everything. It's Dark Pulse. Okay. And I can't deal that much damage into Hydreigon right now either. Like, this is actually... might just be enough to counter everything we have here. I don't have a good defensive Terra here either with either of these two. How else, like, I guess I just needed to consider Poison Hydreigon Terra in team preview, and, like, I don't know, it's not like Corviknight really solves things either, because we just can't hit it for super effective damage, and it kind of out-offenses us. The interesting thing here is setting up Misty Terrain. Misty Terrain into Wild Charge. Okay. Yep, there's Draco. Okay, that did less than half, which is good. The Annihilate now bulking up, though, which is scary, because they can obviously just double up onto the Iron Hands this next turn. That does nothing. Oh my gosh. And I'm not in Citrus Berry KO range, but maybe that's okay. I'm gonna just Spirit Brick Wild Charge here. They actually missed Draco Meteor. And they went for Bulk Up again, so okay, even if they hit Draco, I definitely would have survived there, but that's obviously a really lucky miss. I'm not sure I can beat Annihilate in this endgame, by the way. I also don't think Wild Charge even KOs here. Oh my gosh. This is painful. Poison Terra Hydreigon, I feel like, yeah, if you're looking for a counter to this team with the Scope Lens, that's as good as it gets. If I had Corviknight over Gastrodon, this endgame would still be fairly good, but it's not the case here. If I Spirit Break, I also activate Defiant. That's the other problem for me. Alright, I'll Spirit Break Protect here. Oh, Hydreigon does have Protect. Okay, I was wondering about that, because it didn't Protect at all in the previous turns. So, Dark Pulse Draco, Focus Energy, Protect. Makes sense. The Drain Punch into Iron Hands. What's better to have in this endgame? Probably Gastrodon over Iron Hands. Light Screen wears off now. Doesn't really make a difference. Their Light Screen also wears off. Also doesn't really make a difference. They should honestly Dark Pull. No. They're still fine clicking what they're doing. Yeah, just the fact Wild Charge was not a KO, or a 2-hit KO, gave me some problems here. Oh. That's interesting. I don't think your Drain Punch is KOing the Iron Hands here. Yeah. I think they really should have doubled up on Iron Hands because I, just committed the double. Or sorry, the Protect. So now I actually get a knockout on Iron Hands, which is huge. Or sorry, onto Hydreigon. I just don't have a good Terra in this game, right? But now it's a 3v1, so I don't know. It's just scary because I could obviously activate Defiant on Annihilate. 3 turns of Reflect. I think Annihilate honestly might still beat me in this endgame. Yeah, because I'm just gonna, stack Rage Fist here too quickly, I think. Oh, man. What a nightmare to deal with. We don't have, Yawn here either. So switch out into Gastrodon and Protect here. If it's Leftovers, though, Leftovers plus Drain Punch allows this to sustain too much, so I actually don't feel good about this endgame. This is where Corviknight would have saved me, because I would have been able to, just bring it out and keep clicking Bulk Up. But the Arcanine in my opponent's team really scared me. Cool. They Bulk Up again. Nicely done. Okay. Now, Reflect wears off on their end. They're +3 attack and defense, jeez. I think I'm just going to Earth Power Swords Dance here. Okay, we at least get a Swords Dance for free. That was kind of nice. I can't even Terra valuably in this match. Oh, yeah. How frustrating. My opponent played this really well, though. The way they conserved Hydreigon, Poison, Terra. That's honestly probably one of the biggest counters to this comp. So I'm glad to run into it, right? Because it's not like it's just all easy when you use this team. So Earth Power and Wild Charge here. Yeah, Iron Hands can't take that. I would need some good fortune with Gastrodon right now, but I don't think Earth Power is even a 3 KO with Leftovers recovery and Drain Punch recovery. Yeah. Yeah, with Leftovers here. I'm just stacking up Rage Fist for them right now as well. So honestly, even though Sylveon was so good for me in the early game, and it got 2 knockouts, I needed to conserve it all the way until the end. So if I were to replay this, I would consider maybe leading Grim Gastrodon instead, and just going for, Muddy Water plus Spirit Breaks. Critical Hit from Spirit Break can do it for us. No more Reflect up on my end right now. I'm down to Protect into Reflect. Then Spirit Break, Earth Power. I mean, it's still not over, right? I could still win this, but Spirit Break should just not do that much damage into Annihilate, which is the problem. Okay, they do Rage Fist into Gastrodon. Annihilate heals back up. Oh, let us Earth Power and Spirit Break. Okay, they Rage Fist. Let's see if this KOs. +3. Gastrodon does survive. Maybe that's enough for us to win, actually. Let's see how much Spirit Break does. Ooh, hold on. Oh, but you know what? Never mind. They just Drain Punch Grimmsnarl. Oh, we were so close, but it wasn't enough. Yeah. Oh, but you know what? This is where our Terra does matter. It's Ghost Terra. So basically, if you're my opponent, now you're thinking, oh shoot, like I need to recover, because otherwise I'm gonna faint to a double up. And so if I were them, I would Drain Punch into the Grimmsnarl slot. The only thing you would lose to is Ghost Terra Annihilate. The other thing, or sorry, Grimmsnarl. I also could have considered recovering with Gastrodon here if they protected. Yes! Oh my gosh! Oh, I thought this game was 100% doomed. And that gets actually just the knockout in itself. Wow. What a game. I thought this game was like 100% over because the Hydreigon and the Annihilate were so hard to break through. Oh my goodness, but that's why you don't give up. And yeah, that's where saving a Terra all the way until the end can actually be very, very crucial. Never thought I would have ended up using Ghost Terra in that way to avoid a Drain Punch, but it played out exactly how I wanted it to. So what a battle there. That's a Pincurchin. That's interesting. Obviously, that sets up electric terrain for some of the Paradox Pokemon. Otherwise, Iron Hands, Farigiraf, Kingambit, the Garganacl, and Paradox Delibird. So immediately I feel like Gastrodon's really good here. Like, part of the reason why Gastrodon's really interesting is because of Covert Cloak. Like, we essentially can just wall the Garganacl and Earth Power it. And with Garganacl usage, I feel like rising just a little bit. I think this is really solid. We've got Dragon Terra on Corviknight. We can potentially bulk up in front of the Hariyama. Pincurchin scares me a little. I think Gastro is actually going to be really important here. They could go, I guess, like Iron Hands plus Kingambit if they really wanted to KO Grimmsnarl early. Iron Hands, Kingambit. I can't burn them because there's no Will-O-Wisp on Arcanine here. I think I like Grimmsnarl, Gastrodon, Iron Hands. Probably just Sylveon. Hyper Voice is just fairly solid into their team. I guess Arcanine's not terrible, but I'm down for this. So generally the goal is 1, set up screens with Grimmsnarl. That's obviously helpful. And 2, I think Gastrodon actually can just deal large amounts of damage here even without any setup. Iron Hands obviously can potentially angle to Swords Dance up in this battle as well. So yeah, once we get screens up, we can go from there. We're going to go with Farigiraf and Kingambit. Okay. Question is which screen I want to set up first. I mean, Reflect into an Earth Power here feels okay. Maybe Kingambit Terras, but I think forcing a Terra out on turn 1 isn't bad, given that I don't know what Terras they have. Against Farigiraf and Kingambit, what could I have gone with? I guess Iron Hands would have put on a little bit more pressure against the Kingambit. They don't Terra, they don't switch. No Protects either. Okay. We get Reflect, we get Earth Power. It's over 50% of Kingambit. Farigiraf has Light Screen. That's interesting. It's also slower than Gastrodon. And just Iron Head and a Grim. Cool. I think that works out very well for us. So I'm down in Light Screen now. Kingambit will survive Earth Power. But that's fine. Like, I think we kind of win the trade-off here, because I think we have more damage potential with Iron Hands having Swords Dance, Citrus Berry, and Drain Punch. I can sustain for a long time as well, whereas I don't think my opponent really has as much recovery. So yeah, in terms of leads, I think like Corviknight lead into this could have been interesting, because we could have just started clicking like Bulk Up, but without something like a Body Press, it's not like I actually do that much damage to Kingambit with Corviknight anyway, whereas like Gastrodon I felt like applied just maximum pressure into so many of their Pokemon. But Grimmsnarl's got him both screens up, and that's already a solid start for us. I think the one thing to worry about here is activating Defiant, but Earth Power actually gets a crit there, which is obviously very lucky. Because, yeah, by clicking Earth Power, I could potentially lower their special defense, which would activate Defiant and Farigiraf Trick Rooms. So I was expecting to see Trick Room turn 1, but they might have been expecting to outspeed Gastrodon, which would make sense. Garganackle comes out, though, and this is what Gastrodon is designed to do. It just completely walls Garganackle. So, Misty Terrain, not really that valuable. I don't really want to switch out here. Grimmsnarl's honestly done what I've needed to do, so I'm down to just Spirit Break Farigiraf and then just Earth Power into Garganackle. Like, I honestly think they have no Gastrodon matchup right now, given the Pokemon they've brought into the battle. Their only answer would be the Iron Bundle. But against Iron Bundle, I could just Terra Fire, right? And then the Gastrodon just completely walls it because we've got the Storm Drain, and then your Freeze Dries and Ice-type attacks just do so little damage as well. So, I'd say that crit was lucky in the sense that if I didn't get that crit, then King Gambit gets another attack off, and then maybe if I activated Defiant, for example, things could actually get pretty awkward, but we're going to see a Terra come out from their end, sure. Terra Garganackle, Ghost, Grass. It's going to be Ghost, okay. So Ghost Garganackle, given what I have, I actually don't have like a lot of super effective damage into it, but this is where the Covert Cloak on Gastrodon is so nice, because yeah, Cell Cure is just basically not going to actually affect us. So we're not doing much damage to Garganackle, that's fine. I will probably divert my attention to the Farigiraf now, but really interesting, it's actually dual screens with Trick Room. So Spirit Break on Farigiraf. So it's funny because the teams we're using actually feel somewhat similar, right? They both have like bulky Pokemon that set up screens, but I think one of the advantages of the team that we're using is that we have a lot of recovery between Gastrodon having Recover and the Iron Hands having Drain Punch plus the Citrus Berry. So I'm just going to Spirit Break into Farigiraf and then just Earth Power. Like, this is going to be kind of a slow game right now, but I have a huge advantage in my opinion. My opponent already committed their Terra. We have the Covert Cloak on Gastrodon, so Garganackle isn't actually a problem. And this is exactly why, if you're looking for a counter into Garganackle, Gastrodon's really worth considering. One thing that's interesting is that Poison Terra Garganackle, of course, won the San Diego Regional Championships, which was the first major tournament in Scarlet and Violet VGC. But I think now that Gastrodon's kind of coming back into the format a little bit, you know, Ghost Terra makes a lot of sense. So we get to confirm the full moveset here on the Farigiraf. It's Hyper Voice, dual screens, plus Trick Room. It's really not doing that much damage to us right now, though. And essentially, I am willing to play around Garganackle until we get to a point where screens are stalled out. Honestly, I might be able to just bring out Iron Hands right now and just click. I could probably protect this first turn, then Swords Dance next turn is what I'm thinking. It's probably Light Clay on the Farigiraf as well, right? The alternative is just to bring out Sylveon. And just Hyper Voice. Plus Earth Power. Honestly, I don't mind that very much. Because then if we get the KO onto Farigiraf, we can just yawn whatever's coming out. And then, like, let's take a look at what they have. Iron Hands, Iron Bundle, Pincurchin. None of those are really too scary for what we have right now. I think this turn I'm willing to Protect. Yeah, there's 2 turns of Trick Room. Protect and Earth Power here. Because right now, the Gastrodon is essentially completely walling my opponent. And this is where Covert Cloak just makes all the difference, right? So, okay, they Salt Cure into Sylveon. That's fine. Probably just another Hyper Voice. Because we Earth Power first. Gastrodon is getting all the crits, which is very lucky. Although I really would have preferred to play this game without the crits to showcase. I don't think we needed it at all, honestly. But obviously, I'm getting quite lucky. So, you know, when you have good fortune like this, you kind of got to just take it and, you know, run away with it. But at the same time, it's really important when you're evaluating your matches to be like, okay, how essential basically was the good luck that I had? Because if the answer is that it was very essential, then generally I'd like, you know, kind of assess, did I actually play this game correctly? So they weren't Light Clay. Okay. Terra Blast is interesting here because it covers for Wide Guard, but I honestly think Hyper Voice, Terra here, and Earth Power is totally fine. Because once we Terra Fire Gastrodon, I mean, like, once again, they just had no damage in a Gastrodon. King Gambit would have been their best bet. But Covert Cloak just makes all the difference here. But the point I was making about, like, getting good luck is basically, you know, ideally in Pokemon you want to win without having good luck on your side. And so when you do win, and you have like some critical crits or misses, it's always good to kind of just evaluate and be like, okay, how essential were they to winning the battle? Okay, they just Salt Cure Sylveon, that's fine. Yeah, the thing about Garganacl is, you know, then I can just bring out the Iron Hands and then just Swords Dance a couple times and just like Wild Charge plus Earth Power into it. So, and Gastrodon with Storm Drain plus Fire Terror here just makes Iron Bundle really sad. So, this is a great example of just how good Gastrodon can be in this format. Honestly, could not have asked for a better team for it to go up against. And if that crit didn't happen on Farigiraf, by the way, the next turn I would just click Earth Power Hyper Voice. Like, they essentially do no damage to me since they're at -2 special attack and we had screens up, so wouldn't have changed too much other than me just tearing a little bit later on in the battle. But Trick Room expires now, but like I said, don't really have to worry about Bundle. I'm actually going to Terra Blast on Earth Power here because Garganacl, of course, could go for a Wide Guard. And Terra Blast plus Earth Power, honestly think, well, +1 Terra Blast plus Earth Power, does it get the KO? I'm not sure, but Iron Bundle shouldn't really threaten us with too much in return. And I'm kind of just waiting to get Iron Hands out right now so I can start Swords Dancing up on the Garganacl. So, yeah, they just go for Freeze Drive. That's fine. It barely does anything with screens up. +1 Terra Blast. Brings it down to Focus Sash. Okay. And we'll get the knockout here. Perfect. Yeah, it's just kind of safer. Gastrodon gets another critical hit in this game. Oh my gosh. Although this is one of those games where I'm like, I wish I could have saved my good crit luck for another matchup. But obviously I can't complain. So Garganacl heals up. Sylveon's just going to keep taking damage. Reflect wears off. I kind of expect them to protect here, so I'm down to just switch out and then recover here. Even if they don't protect, like with Citrus Berry on Iron Hands, like they just don't have enough time to actually stall it out with Salt Cure. So I'm just going to Swords Dance a bunch and then just Wild Charge. Yep, they protect. Cool. And basically in this situation, what was the worst case? Like, they end up just Salt Curing into Iron Hands. It's not even really that bad. I think the more optimal way to play this is actually to just stay in with Sylveon and keep clicking Terra Blast, let it eventually faint so then Iron Hands gets the free switch in, but honestly don't think it matters. Reflect wears off, so let's go for Swords Dance number 1. Earth Power. The other thing about this matchup is that, like, Gastrodon could obviously lower my opponent's special defense with Earth Power. But yeah, like Garganacl can be scary, but if you attack all the tools around it, like it takes forever to win through Salt Cure, right? So like Salt Cure here does 10 damage, and we have Citrus Berry, right? So I'm just gonna Swords Dance Earth Power again, and we can just get to +6 attack and then Wild Charge. Yeah, with Citrus Berry here, I feel very confident because we're taking 30 damage per Salt Cure, right? So they would need 7 Salt Cures. I'd say 6 once you add in the chip damage from all the Salt Cures that they have. But yeah, just going to Swords Dance Earth Power again. And they protect. Perfect. I do wonder if a +4 Wild Charge gets the KO. The one downside, by the way, in switching out Sylveon was getting rid of that special attack boost that I had from the Throat Spray. Okay. You can heal back all you want. It's fine. I think the one thing to be careful of is if I like take too much recoil from Wild Charge. So I'd rather just guarantee myself to get to +6 right now. So Swords Dance and Earth Power again. One kind of fun thing I can do in this matchup, by the way, is actually side Drain Punch to heal back with the Iron Hands as well. But yeah, they end up forfeiting there. So we definitely had a lot of good fortune with Gastrodon getting the Earth Power crit onto the King Gambit. I think if we don't get that crit, King Gambit sticks around for another turn and things can get a little bit dicier, especially if I activate Defiant. But I think the reality is that Gastrodon was just so good into their team there, and the Covert Cloak, you can see exactly why it's used, right? Because it allows it to counter Garganacl. So, yeah. Okay, this is basically a Series 1 team, but it's not something you would have seen too much in Series 1. It's got, like, different pieces. For example, Maushold Annihilate, Farigiraf, and Torkoal. Tyranitar is really interesting. Tyranitar saw very little play in Series 1 since like Meowscarada and Golden Go were obviously really strong. The main set you would see Tyranitar would be like Assault Vest with Flying Terra Blast. So we just saw how hard Annihilate can be as a matchup. especially with Bulk Up. But I guess the Hydreigon was also like a pretty critical piece for my opponent. Like generally Sylveon feels strong here, but I have to worry about just Mouse Hold plus Annihilate, right? Ugh. Wait, how do I deal with that? Because I can't stop Rage Fist into beat up into Rage Fist. That's a pretty serious problem. Like, I want to go Grimmsnarl, Iron Hands here. Gastrodon. I feel like I need to bring Corviknight. You know what? Maybe it's just Grimmsnarl, Corviknight, Iron Hands in the back. And then it's between Gastrodon or Sylveon. I like Sylveon more. Hyper Voice is so strong here. But, like, the thing is, it makes me slightly weaker into Torkoal if I don't Terra the Sylveon. Yeah, I feel like Annihilate's an interesting one. It doesn't feel like it's that strong, but the problem is, like, we can't, like, KO it that easily, actually, between Bulk Up, Friend Guard, and a potential defensive Terra. And basically, the Annihilate being able to sustain with Drain Punch is a big problem. So, yeah, they just go with Mouse Hold Annihilate. Like, my strategy here was to just go for Bulk Up into Reflect turn 1. But, like, I don't know how well we actually take Rage Fist from Mouse Hold plus Ape. So, I don't know if this actually was the right strategy. The alternative approach could have been Grim Sylveon lead. Maybe they protect. Oh, that also works. Okay, they go for Follow Me. Probably trying to deter, like, a... Oh, but they're just going to Bulk Up, aren't they? Do I think Brave Bird plus Spirit Break KOs Annihilate with Friend Guard and them having the boost? Probably not. Man. I really don't want to just, like, miss the KO. I feel like I should try to KO the Mouse Hold right now. They could easily protect Mouse Hold here, though, and just Rage Fist, which then would be frustrating. Out of all the Pokemon I faced against while using this team, yeah, I think the... Yeah, they're speed up. I think Annihilate's been a pretty big issue, mainly because it's not just Annihilate, but it's Annihilate plus its partners, right? Like, Annihilate standalone we can deal with, but the fact that there's beat up to enable here is a problem. Oh my gosh, that was smart. This thing is so boosted up now. I don't know if I even KO the Mouse Hold with this double up. Okay, we do. That's good. But, like, is it really good? I mean, I at least have Sylveon, but, like, Rage Fist is just going to crush my whole team now, right? How do I get around it? Like, Arcanine wouldn't have really provided any value here without Will-O-Wisp because it would just activate Defiant. So that's not the solution. And Gastrodon, like, can Earth Power, kind of like what we saw previously, but... Yeah, I mean, now I'm facing a +2... Maybe Corviknight miraculously survives. That would be cool. I really don't know. Like, I think this thing just kind of destroys me at this point. Like, I'm honestly thinking about playing towards just getting a crit right now immediately onto this. With one a Spirit Break or Brave Bird. I'm just going to go for it, because I actually don't really see a very clear solution in beating Annihilate. Unless, for some reason, it's slower than Sylveon, but that would be very surprising. They could also just Terra here as well, defensively. But it'd be interesting. Like, imagine if they steal Terra, then I can at least Drain Punch you with the Iron Hands. Forgraph actually hard switches. Interesting. It's probably just to deter a Thunder Wave, or any kind of speed control, which I think is actually very smart. Yeah, there's Rage Fist. Does this KO? We'll see. Yeah, I'm done for. It's too set up. Unless I crit Spirit Break here, like, I don't really see a solution. Yeah, that just does not do enough. I think I should have just maybe considered Brave Birding and Spirit Breaking the turn that they went for the Rage, or sorry, the Beat Up. Because I'm actually doing more damage than I expected to. The game still isn't necessarily over. We can win with a timely crit, right? By bringing out Sylveon, you have to divert your attention into Sylveon right now, essentially. So I'm just going to Spirit Break again and Protect. I think not having a defensive Terra against Ghost is what's really messing things up right now. Grimmsnarl obviously can resist it, but yeah, they're going to Terra here. Smart. Into Ape. Yep. Fire. If I had Gastrodon in the... I mean, it's too late at this point. Like, it wouldn't even do anything for me. And my opponent can confidently do this because Rage Fist just KOs everything right now. Man, I don't really know how to beat this easily. Maybe my Iron Hands lead that I was thinking about initially would have worked because I could have just Drain Punched into Mouse Hold, but I don't even know if that KOs if they're defensive mouse, which they should be. Yeah, I mean, I'm just activating Defiant again. But there's nothing I can do at this point. Oh my gosh, wait, they're not Defiant. I just... It didn't click for me, because I just assumed it was going to activate after the last turn. You know, so it's probably Vital Spirit, which means Arcanine actually, in a best of 3, would be the solution here. That's just so funny, because, like, obviously Defiant is so common. Maybe Sylveon miraculously survives here. And I get a Yawn into this. But it's just eating up so many hits. This is full base power, 2 stacks. Yeah. Yeah, I would have never assumed it to be Vital Spirit until I saw it otherwise. And so, can't do much about that in a best of 1. I'm just not bringing Arcanine in this matchup in a best of 1. But in a best of 3, it's hilarious where it's like, okay, my opponent has this unique ability where I can actually leverage that to my advantage. It's also weakness policy on the Tyranitar. Wow. Scary. Annihilate is tough. Yeah, it is not easy to go up against, huh? Very interesting. Okay. We're bringing out Iron Hands. Yeah, I mean, a Terra doesn't even really solve anything. I guess I'm curious to see how much damage they can do to us right now. So I'll play this turn out. They'll likely just get a double knockout. But is there any chance in which we survive a Rage Fist? Probably not. They protected. That makes sense. Yep, saw to turn and reflect, see what I want to do. I could have clicked Swords Dance there, actually, then, but... Fire, Terra, Annihilate. Yeah, like, if I had Gastrodon in the back here, maybe there was an out. But essentially, like, it's so hard to win this in a best of 1 without knowing the Terra on Annihilate. Like, now if I know your Fire Terra in a game 2, what I would do is actually bring Arcanine and Gastrodon. Arcanine gives me Intimidate into the Annihilate, but then Gastrodon gives me the super effective Earth Power or Muddy Water into Annihilate. But in a best of 1... I wasn't sure, like, bringing Gastrodon was actually worth it because it felt fairly passive. Although I guess it did allow me to actually win that endgame previously. So, yeah. But they're +2 with both Pokemon right now, and you have a full stack Rage Fist. I just want to see if it does just guarantee the knockout onto this. Yeah. And that's the strength of Mousehold Annihilate. Without anything faster than the Mousehold or the Annihilate, they can just guarantee basically the combo. So, yeah, I think Annihilate with Bulk Up is definitely one of the trickier Pokemon to fight against when using this team, because it can sustain for a really long time. But, you know, I'm glad to face it multiple times, because, yeah, obviously, like, every team has things that can give it some trouble. But that was nicely executed by my opponent. I think what was really smart by them was going for the second Bulk Up when they had Mousehold plus Ape together. Like, on one hand, you might think it feels greedy, but because there was Friend Guard and the Annihilate was faster, it was actually really safe. So, that was super smart. Colossal. Oh, okay. Dragapult, Colossal, Armor Indie, Golden Go, and Iron Bundle. Colossal, Colossal, Colossal. My immediate impression is Fire Terra Gastrodon's solid here. Obviously, Armor Indie is scary. Grim can just set up screens. It can also get rid of Psychic Terrain with Misty Terrain, which is cool. I probably don't bring Corv here. Sylveon's pretty bad into Colossal. Yeah, I'm thinking Grimmsnarl, Gastrodon lead. What about Grimmsnarl, Arcanine? If I were them, I would probably just go Dragapult Colossal, though. So, okay. Grim, Gastrodon. Iron Hands. And it's between Sylveon or Arcanine. Intimidate, really not that good here. Snarl's decent into Armor Rouge. Sylveon Hyper Voice generally feels a little bit better here, though. Yawn, I think, actually can be pretty good with it as well. So, we'll see. Pretty interesting team. Colossal just has obviously taken a big decrease in usage since Sword and Shield. Yep, it's just Dragapult and Cole. I've seen Explosion Colossal before, so like, I don't hate the idea of setting up a Reflect rather than a Light Screen, and actually just Protect turn 1. I guess if you Surf, you actually activate My Storm Drain, which is also kind of interesting, right? I'm okay going for Protect here, though. I just want to scout out for what they do. Okay, so they're not protecting. They're not tearing either. Just curious what Colossal actually wants to go for here. Yeah, so they're Surf. I don't know. I feel like you wouldn't do this unless you expected to KO Gastrodon. Otherwise, I would have expected... Okay, so Steam Engine, Weakness Policy. But yeah, because obviously you would be vulnerable to an Earth Power here, so this is a really high-risk, high-reward play. So what is Colossal going for? I was expecting Explosion. Nice. Okay, not this time. So I got Reflect up. I don't know. Like, the downside is a lot of the attackers they have in the back are special, and I don't know if Grim survives this, but never mind. Grim is clutch. Beautiful. I really, really like this team, by the way. Like, I feel like it has so many tools, generally. The Annihilate matchup, it was really tricky. I feel like with some thinking, I could probably figure out a better solution into it. But overall, like, against so many teams, you just have so much bulk to work with and so much offense, which I just love. Psychic Seed and NDD, no surprise there. Obviously, I can Light Screen now. Ooh, Misty Terrain is actually interesting, though. But I think it's more valuable to first set up Light Screen. And I'll Muddy Water here because it covers for an Armor Rouge switch in. Because Dragapult going into Armor Rouge could make some sense, but they're going to stay in. It's fine. Ooh, wait, Dragon Dance makes this quite scary, actually. I mean, Sylveon's going to be decently well positioned with Hyper Voice, but... Huh. And I probably survived the Gleam here, which I really did not want to survive. Oh boy, this just got really interesting. Okay. Misty Terrain is really good against Dragon Darts, so I'm going to Misty Terrain and Earth Power here. Really glad to showcase Misty Terrain, though. I think that's really fun. So it's Surf, Dragon Dance. I would expect Dragon Darts and like Phantom Force then, but maybe it's just Dragon Dance plus Darts and then like a support move like Will-O-Wisp. Yeah, so they Darts. Beautiful. You can see it really doesn't do that much. Shout out to Misty Terrain. That's one of the cool applications of it. Maybe clicking Recover would have been better for me here. But the thing is, I think now Sylveon is really well positioned, right? There's Earth Power. Beautiful. So let's bring out Sylveon. Double Dragon Darts should not KO Gastrodon. I'm content clicking Hyper Voice and Recover right now. I think I could also consider Protect Gastrodon, but I think right now I actually have the advantage. What's the worst that Dragapult could do? Like Phantom Force? But even with Phantom Force, we have Reflect up, so it definitely should not KO the Sylveon. I think the main thing in this match was not falling to that Explosion on turn 1. But one wonders if I just... No, even if I Earth Power Dragapult, it wouldn't have KO'd, right? Even with the +1 Storm Drain boost. Anyway, really interesting. I feel pretty good about the spot right now. The question is what they have in the back. Like, Armarouge would make the most sense to me, but if that's the case, I don't think it's actually that scary, given the... Okay, they... Oh, wait, if it's Steel Terra, Terra Blast. I just thought about that. It's still fine, even if this KOs, but that would be slightly sad to... I mean, I was never going to expect that. I just realized as soon as they Terra that would be a possibility. That's so cool! I really like that. It's a really smart tech in best of 1. +1 Terra Blast, Steel Terra, but it does not KO Sylveon. Nice job. Okay. We don't KO them in return, but it's fine, honestly, because now a Muddy Water finishes off Dragapult, and you just committed your Terra to do that. So, it's fine. Dragon Dance, Dragon Darts, Terra Blast, Surf, Steel Terra, Dragapult with Colossal. It's fascinating. But it means you don't have Protect. I actually don't think it's even that bad for Sylveon to go down here to give a free switch in, because I could theoretically miss right now, and they might Dragon Darts instead. I think this game should be over now, though. I just didn't want to protect Sylveon. I don't know, get Dragon Darts, like Helping Hand Dragon Darts crit onto Gastrodon, and Gastrodon misses Muddy Water. Whereas in this position, I'm saying, hey, if you want to KO the Sylveon, you have to click the Terra Blast here. If you get fancy and click Dragon Darts, I probably just pick up a double knockout and win the game. Plus, they still have Iron Hands in the back, and the fact that they went all in on that Terra to try to KO Sylveon and did not get the KO puts me in a really nice spot. But I've never seen Terra Blast Steel Terra Dragapult before, especially when paired with Colossal. Because I think, you know, when you think of Colossal from the previous gen, you know, it would be like, oh, the Dragapults would be supportive with like Will-O-Wisp, for example. So, yeah, they go for Terra Blast, but that's fine. Another reason I'm like comfortable going for this right now is because... Also, did my controller just run out of power? Let me quickly find... Am I going to miss Muddy Water here? Who did I miss? Okay, this is Indy. Let me get my controller real quick. Okay. So obviously I'm trying to switch in Sylveon right now, but I actually got to plug my controller in. I feel like my Switch controllers just die or run out of power faster than I'd like them to. Plug it in real quick. The good thing is we only have one Pokemon to switch in right now. Okay. Hopefully that's good. Just not going off. Okay, so we get Iron Hands out right now. It is indeed Armarouge as the last one. But with us having terrain control, that's obviously pretty valuable. I am curious if they have, like, Energy Ball on this. This game technically is not over, right? Because, like, it's Psychic, like, double up into Iron Hands. I'm just worried about, like, a random Energy Ball from this. I actually want to Terra Fire Gastrodon as a result. Like, Wild Charge, Terra Fire, and Earth Power here. Maybe NDD protects, but I'm not that worried about Armarouge. This is where Grimmsnarl having Misty Terrain was a huge deal, by the way. It completely stops Armarouge NDD from just spamming Psychic type attacks and dealing a lot of damage. So I really like that because I have never used Misty Terrain on any other Grimmsnarl sets throughout all my time playing with Grimmsnarl. And they wide guard perfect. Yeah, the main thing right now is, like, I know I still have Light Screen, so even if you go for, like, Psychic Expanding Force with onto Iron Hands, like, I still think it's okay. And this just ensures us the victory. And I went for Fire Terra with Gastrodon because I really didn't want to, like, just feint to something like a Helping Hand Energy Ball from the Armarouge. And then just play the 1v2 with Iron Hands. So the idea with this play was that I should just survive the turn with both Pokemon. If I do that, I should knock out the NDD. So, yeah. Okay, Wild Charge and Let's actually think about this real quick, because like they could be weakness policy. Misty Terrain is still up for one more turn. 3 turns of Light Screen, though. I think it's fine to actually just Protect here and Earth Power. Yeah. Because the Armarouge should not have an attack that can knock out both Pokemon here. Yeah, they just Expanding Force. Perfect. So now, even if they're weakness policy, I should win, because I'll be able to Wild Charge and Earth Power them. Basically, what I wanted to cover for was weakness policy Armarouge. Like, if their Expanding Force crits the Iron Hands and their weakness policy, maybe they could win the game, but now it's a guaranteed victory for us. So, Wild Charge and Earth Power. Grimmsnarl, like, was so essential in this game, though. Setting up that Reflect on turn 1, being able to stop the Colossal. Like, you know, without Reflect, Grimmsnarl probably faints there, and then the Sylveon probably faints to the Terra Blast as well after the Dragon Dance. So, they had a lot of cool techs there. They had the Dragon Dance, Terra Blast, Dragapult. The Colossal was obviously interesting with Explosion. It's harder to use Colossal, obviously, because you can't Dynamax anymore. And so that also means you can't go for, like, G-Max Volcolith or really strong, like, Max moves. And so Colossal is just generally weaker. It was really a Pokemon designed for Max. And then also Grimmsnarl being able to set up Misty Terrain was so essential in this game. Because I think if Indeedee switched out and then came back in, they would have been able to at least Expanding Force in the end game with Armarouge. But that obviously was not the case here. So, yeah. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. This really is one of my favorite teams that I've tried out so far in Series 2. I think it's super consistent. Obviously, games can go on for a little bit longer, but I think it has just so many tools at its disposal. But I'm also glad to kind of feature, you know, the that loss to Annihilate, because that was really difficult. I think, like, I can certainly think of maybe some answers into it. I'm actually looking at, like, the team, and I think, like, Sylveon with Yawn might be where I'd start. Like, Sylveon plus Iron Hands, because you can Yawn plus Swords Dance. Also, like, now, once I had found out, like I mentioned, that it was Fire Terra Annihilate with Vital Spirit, or at least not Defiant, Arcanine plus Gastrodon would also be potential solutions into that matchup. But in a best of one, it's kind of hard, so I don't really feel bad losing that one. So thanks so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy, and I'll catch you all next time. All right, peace.